Thank you very much, Shalom. I'd like to thank you for all your comments. Lindsay's not a fan of the video show, and Paul loved last week's episode, and it seems that more people in the East prefer the audio version so that they can listen while in their cars, except for those who prefer to listen so that they can sleep. So I hope that the sleepers and the drivers are different people. And more people in the West seem to prefer the video. As the great emancipator said, you can please some of the people all of the time, you can please all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. Well, whether you're in the East or West or North or South, I hope you all find something you like and get something from the show. Woodrow Wilson was so horrified by the slaughter that had taken place with World War I that he tried to create a body to ensure that war never broke out again. The League of Nations didn't work. And some might well say that its successor, the United Nations, doesn't either. But to see it condemn Hamas and Israel for war crimes, while Hamas fires rocket after rocket into Israel, hoping to kill as many people as possible, military or not, while Israel ceases fire to allow food and other humanitarian articles into Gaza, is unconscionable. Wake up, UN. And wake up news organizations that feel it's unfair for more Palestinians to die than Israelis. Wow, what have we become? And hopefully that's it for my political commentaries. I can't think of a better way to start than to quote the great John Lennon Christmas tune, "Happy Christmas, war is over." A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Let's hope it's a good one, without any fear. War is over if you want it. Friends, don't we all want war over? I think we do. And I think we all hope and pray for peace in our lives and in the life of the world. As we take a look at the Parsha, which I mentioned before, usually is read with last week's, Maseh, travels, the Parsha that calls for war, and which marks the end of Numbers and the end of the line. And as the traveling Wilburys sang, well, it's all right, even if you're old and gray, well, it's all right. You still got something to say. Well, it's all right. Remember to live and let live. Well, it's all right. The best you can do is forgive. Never forget to forgive. Friends, the conquest of the Promised Land is about to begin. The Parsha begins with an amazing recap of the travels, commencing on the 15th day of the first month, the day after Passover, when the Israelites left Egypt. And from Numbers 33:1 to 33:38, there is a reiteration of the entire journey. If you had an ancient map, you could trace the route, and many try to, but it doesn't tell you the length of time of the stays. But in 33:38, we are told Aaron died, so we know when we are. We are in the 40th year, and we are told the date of his death, the first of the 5th month, which would be the first of Av. And remember, we count months from Nisan, not from Tishrei. That is from spring, not from fall. And probably the biggest surprise is the central stop at Mount Sinai, the one that took so long and meant so much, is not actually mentioned. Only a stay in the wilderness of Sinai is. The people are now ready to cross the Jordan, and God tells them to take the land and destroy all molten gods. And remember, friends, since the Golden Calf episode, this proviso on molten images was added, and they are to destroy the high places, that is the temples. And perhaps, in a foreshadowing prediction, they are to kill everyone, or whoever is left will be a thorn in their side. And God proceeds to then set the boundaries of what the new state will be. And in so doing, he keeps referring to the tribes and their leaders. You see, from the wilderness period through the period of the judges and through the period of the kings, there is never one individual political authority. There are always tribal chiefs, priests, judges, and councils, a series of checks and balances. At no time is absolute power granted to one individual. Not now for Moses, or later for David. This was a nation designed not to be ruled by one individual. We learn about the planned allocation of land and how the priestly tribe, the Levites, get assigned 48 towns, 4 per tribe. And this is the first thing I actually want to talk about tonight. 6 of which are asylum towns, 3 on each side of the Jordan, Levitical towns of refuge. The concept of the asylum towns are an interesting one, and one which had been seen in ancient Mesopotamia and in ancient Egypt, and which took the form under the Catholic Church as the church being a place of sanctuary where you could seek safety and asylum. These asylum towns were for the manslayer to flee to. You see, friends, in ancient Hebrew, the same word, rotsea, was used for both intentional murder and for someone who has committed manslaughter. And it was differentiated by the context of the sentence. And these refuge towns allowed the perpetrator to be protected from an avenger or family member attempting to get revenge. And that guaranteed time for a trial. And what are we told in Numbers 35:15? Well, it says, "These 6 cities shall be for refuge for the children of Israel and for the alien and for the visitor among them, for anyone who strikes a life by mistake to flee there." It's by mistake. And again we are reminded, friends, there is one law for all, and that great law that governs the universe, even though we tend to forget it, is the law of love. And an ancient diagram gave us a fantastic clue to this. Take a look when you can at a picture of the traditional tree of life with its 10 circles and 22 paths, representing everything you can imagine. And then superimpose on it the glyph or sign for Venus, the goddess and planet of love, and the sign for female, and see how perfectly it encompasses the tree of life. We are then told there are 3 types of tools used for killing, and each has different ramifications: iron, stone, and wood, to coincide with types of homicide and to point to 3 intentions. You see, friends, there's that concept again, kavanah, the intention we bring to something. Iron tools are made as weapons. Stone is an improvised weapon, and wooden hand tools were made for a different purpose altogether, but can be used as a weapon. The intention dictates whether the murderer is put to death or not. If the murder was accidental or unintentional, the blood avenger, the Goel Hadam, is not allowed to kill the murderer. But if it is intentional, then he is. And of course there must be 2 or more witnesses in order to convict someone. Death and blood were taken very seriously. We have been told since the stories of Eden, of Cain and Abel, the flood and others, that the earth suffers from the wrongdoing of man. The ground is cursed on your account. The earth was corrupted because all flesh had corrupted its way. You're cursed from the ground that opened its mouth to take your brother's blood. Blood will pollute the land, my friends, and I'm afraid it still does. And murder is not only a sin against the victim, it is a sin against the earth. There's a wonderful midrash, which is an exegesis or a critical interpretation of biblical literature that I want to share. When Cain kills Abel and hides the body, God calls to him and says, "Where is Abel, your brother?" And we're all familiar with what Cain answers, "Am I my brother's keeper?" And God says, "Kol dimei achicha tzoakim alei min ha'adama." The bloods of your brother are shrieking out to me from the earth. The key word being bloods. And the sages explained it this way: whenever you kill a human being, you kill more than that person. You kill all the potential people to whom this person might have given birth. Well, friends, it's the same when you kill the spirit of someone. All the people that person may have helped, may have influenced, may have encouraged, and all that they would have impacted on. Friends, how often do you wish you could have had refuge in your life, shelter from the storm? As Hamlet so eloquently put it, whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles. We all encounter seas of troubles at times. And how often have you failed to grant refuge to others, so that cooler and calmer heads could prevail? We often stand at the table of broken dreams and conditions of our lives that we think are ruined, but we can put them back together. They may not be perfect, friends, but they are the parts and the paths that represent us. Friends, many have found Numbers to be ununified, a disjointed narrative of laws, prose, and poems. But I suggest it is unified. It is unified by the journey. As such, it functions in both time and space, through the chronology of its events and through the geographical placement of events along the route of travel. It is a connecting line of cause and effect, so you can read individual stories or see them as a meaningful series of events. In many ways, its episodes are more related than those in other great works like the Odyssey or the Epic of Gilgamesh. From its beginning, with the story of preparation for the journey to the end of the journey when they've arrived, with a leader, a priestly establishment, a constitution, and a system of land distribution. The journey was the actual unifying line of the people. The other thing I want to mention, friends, is the great lessons in Numbers that are often bypassed. We have seen glimpses of it before. The method of divine response is that God addresses what is in the person's heart rather than what the person says. What is in your heart? Are your thoughts and feelings balanced and unified? When you talk to God or pray or ask for guidance, are the answers you get addressing something you did not think you were asking? Friends, the people with a slave mentality cannot enter the promised land. They showed themselves to be fearful and ungrateful and unprepared for the responsibility that freedom brings. Are you keeping yourself from entering your promised land? You see, the people take a longer route than necessary out of fear. They go through the territory to the east, and ultimately they do enter from the east. Are you taking a longer route than necessary to get to your destination, to your promised land? The people were subject to manipulation and deception, as seen in the rebellions. And as Bob Dylan sang in Man of Peace, he's a great humanitarian, he's a great philanthropist. He knows just where to touch you, honey, and how you like to be kissed. He'll put both his arms around you. You can feel the tender touch of the beast. You know that sometimes Satan comes as a man of peace. These are the warnings and lessons of fear. We have seen them all the way along the Torah, but never more poignant than in Numbers. The cosmic and the historical are bound inexorably together. And throughout this Parsha and the entire book of Numbers, we are confronted by the phrase, by the word of the Lord. Literally, of course, it is by the mouth of the Lord. An adumbration or foreshadowing of the theology of legal interpretation, which will provide the basis for the Talmud, and which will make every rabbinic ruling halakha leMoshe miSinai, a law according to Moses from Sinai. Keep thinking, keep dreaming, and keep hoping. That's what was probably the first Beatle political song said. Do what you want to do and go where you're going to. Think for yourself, because I won't be there with you. Great to see you all again. Great to be here. Be well, be happy, be healthy, be blessed. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, friends.